Welcome to the adventure of the mind that you're about to go through. Today, Disneyland rides. How do they do it? Well, I have discovered how through the power of research. I'm going to talk about my two favorites, the Indiana Jones Adventure Ride, then the Haunted Mansion. I will then discuss some illusions of each of those rides. I'll start with the Indiana Jones Adventure Ride first. In the lore of the ride, you are trying to get one of three gifts: visions of the future, endless gold, or eternal youth. And at the start, there are three doors that take you to one of these treasures. It's a different door that you drive through every single time, and that had me confused. How did they change which door you drove through every single time? The tracks on the floor were never changing. I always checked. But as you can see from this picture, the tracks are pointing forward to the middle of the store. But as you can see from this next picture, the tracks are still pointing forward, but it's the entire room has shifted instead. That finally solved it. It's the entire room that changes instead of just the tracks. Once you go in, they then change the lights and have a different voiceover for each of the different rooms, even though it's just the same room that you always go through. The next part I'll be talking about are the carts that you actually ride in the ride. They are modeled after Jeeps, and unlike most attraction cars, they actually ride on their wheels. They still do have a track to guide them, but most of the weight is being supported by the wheels. And said in interviews with the engineers that worked on them, you could actually take this out on a drive around town if you had an extension cord long enough. Now I'm going to be talking about the Haunted Mansion. The Haunted Mansion is definitely one of the more interesting things in Disneyland, but sadly, I'm only going to be talking about one part. But it is the most interesting part, the ballroom scene. The ballroom scene has you in the DoomBuggies overlooking a birthday party for a ghost. And all the ghosts, they're floating around through tables, through walls, but the strange thing is they look very holographic, but Disney doesn't have that kind of technology, do they? No, they don't. They're actually using a technique that is very old and has been around since the first Christmas Carol plays. It's called Pepper's Ghost. And as you can see from this diagram below, pretty much what it is so somewhere else, the target, what's going to be the ghost, has some light projected on him and uses a mirror to reflect the light onto a piece of glass that the audience is looking through. It then reflects onto the stage, and that is how you see the ghostly effect that can float through things and disappear with decreasing the amount of light. So it's not some spooky science, it's just a very old stage trick. A fun fact about that room is that a passenger actually smuggled a gun onto the ride and shot at one of the ghosts. This left a huge crack in the glass, and since it's deep underground and it couldn't be replaced, they had to just cover it up with a cobweb and a spider. So if you're ever on that ride, be sure to keep a lookout on that scene for a mysterious cobweb that just seems to be out in the middle of nowhere. Well, I hope you've learned something new about Disneyland, even if it's not your fancy. And I sure hope that you like this video, and thanks for watching.